Does art have to be beautiful? No.
Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, if you like me, subscribe, comment down below, all that fun jazz, and until then.
Sup howdy, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Rumbo. Yay! And for those of you who don't know me already, I'm an artist and a fine art student in South Africa, and I make videos just about that. So if that interests you, you might want to stick around by giving me a subscribe down below. In this video, we're going to be tackling the question, does art have to be beautiful? Before we get into it, I'm just going to say this is 100% my thoughts. I'm most probably going to come back to this question in future videos, so I'm just going to start the conversation today with one of the thoughts I had on this question. It is very subjective, which means I would love to know your opinion on this question and the topic down below. Please feel free to comment down below. It is an open space and I love reading your responses. The reason why I'm making this video is because it is for other creatives that think that they have to have some sort of aesthetic or beautiful end result of their artworks, which becomes its own pressure in itself, and also for people that aren't in art spaces genuinely, who, you know, are used to the beautiful side of art, you know, the aesthetic side of art, without, you know, being exposed to the other forms of art, and then are kind of confused if they come across an artwork and they're like, hey, why is this guy sleeping in a gallery with a coyote? Expand your thoughts if you're not used to things that are non-beautiful, and you'll understand what I mean by that term when I speak in this video. And also just to get rid of some pressure that us artists might feel when creating or developing our own practice. But before we get onto this video, make sure you like, turn on my post notifications so you're notified when next I upload a video. I usually upload on the weekends, but I am going to be trying to post in the middle of the week on Wednesdays, so just in case there might be a random video popping up, you want to keep the notifications turned on. I am trying to make it my goal to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of the year. It's ambitious, yes, but I feel like we can do it, especially with your help. So if you haven't subscribed already, I would really appreciate it if you subscribe right now and share this with all your friends. Comment down below anything at all. So why are we attracted to beautiful art? Even if you haven't studied art history or art in your entire school career, I'm pretty sure that if you think about art, you may be thinking of wonderful Baroque art, or something like Salvador Dali, Surrealism, or something that just looks very aesthetically beautiful. Or if we're thinking less historically, you may be looking at like your social media feed where there's horrendously so beautifully made digital art. That was not proper English, but you know what, ignore it. Or like absolutely refined, hyper realistic detailed drawings or sketches or paintings, something beautiful, something aesthetic, something Pinterest worthy, or animations, any of that you might be seeing online on TikTok, Pinterest, Instagram. And these are all beautiful in their own rights. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, by the way, this whole video, but not all art has to be like that. Not all art has to achieve some sort of aesthetic beauty. Art can also look like this. Art can look like this. Art can look like this, you know? And they're still all very powerful in their own right. Even though, yes, like I said about these beautiful paintings in history or the beautiful work social media artists, all of these arts are beautiful and worthy in their own rights. It requires immense skill, immense talent, and also like things like color theory and just like tonality and a great broad understanding of so many technicalities that go into creating art. So them in themselves, I'm not saying it's a bad thing to like beautiful art. Like, they're beautiful for a reason, they're amazing for a reason, these people are exquisite, but not all art has to be that way. But you might be thinking, then why is non-beautiful art still considered art? What makes it art if it's not this like fully realized aesthetic piece to be looked at? So in this video, I'm going to share my one thought that I had based on this kind of thinking and this kind of question. Yeah, and this is based on the experiences of some artworks I've seen and encountered, and also my own art practice, especially at school, because in fine arts, especially at my school, I'm pretty sure it's the same across all universities in this country. And I think it's a good thing to note if you're thinking about pursuing South Africa. If you're thinking about pursuing fine arts in South Africa or fine art in general, is that there isn't a strong focus on the aesthetic. Aesthetic is an approach you can take to developing your art practice, but it is a different way of thinking of art. And I think that's also what I want to achieve in having this video so that you're open to understanding that art does not only have to be an aesthetic approach. There are different approaches, and that's a huge thing in fine art in my experience, because you come here and there's so many different ways of working. And honestly, that was one of the things I was struggling to grapple with in the beginning, is understanding that this place does not prioritize the aesthetic. So my thoughts on why art does not have to be beautiful is that art serves different functions. In this video, I'm referring to all forms of art, but just to illustrate this point well, I'm just going to be referring to a canvas. So a plain canvas serves as a surface for us artists to manifest our intentions, basically whatever we want. And it can be used for any purpose that we want the canvas to be used for. So this means it all fully depends on the artist's intention, whether it's intended to depict something beautifully and aesthetically and hyper-realistically, or if it's being used to understand a certain emotion or evoke that certain emotion, or if it's for the artist to engage with a certain emotion and, you know, use the canvas as a process to engage with that emotion. It can also be used to create a conversation, to contest something, to celebrate something. These are just very few small ideas on how someone can have an intention for their canvas. It's very limitless. Because a canvas serves as this plane for an artist to build that intention on, what you see on the canvas as an end result is going to vary very differently artwork per artwork. For example, some artists work with their body to fully engage it so that they can have a sensorial and a holistical, no, that's not the word. For example, some artists work fully engaging their body in the whole process of making the artwork, where they are just focused on understanding and being present within the process of making that art. And that might manifest in them making paintings of all of these painterly gestures and stuff that indicates that they have been just using their bodies in stretching and, you know, going in like different motions to feel that. And that might be the reason why they're making art, is to go through that holistical process, which means they're focused on the process, the praxis of making that painting. They're not focused on the aesthetic, and that's why it manifests differently. Whereas somebody else's praxis may be them, you know, focusing on observation. The way they interact with the subject is by observing it, documenting it, and depicting it in the most realistic way possible, or if it's in their own style. Two very different intentions. It may be the same medium. So in this example, I used paint, but it had two very different outcomes. One may be traditionally beautiful. Also, not to say that you don't have to like this kind of art. There's not any single type of art that you have to like, and I'll get into that later, but I'm just explaining why some certain artworks which aren't beautiful or aren't what you might think of as beautiful is still considered art.
But also that is a very
problematic and very hard question to answer, which is what is art, which is something I just will never answer. I'm so scared to dive into that debate because it's gonna make me feel existentialist. So examples of how like the same idea or the same concept can be super different on the canvas is, I'm just gonna use two very famous artists, South African artists, as like a case study, a very small case study. I'm gonna use Nandipha, Mntambo, and Lady Skollie. Both of them, they do have discussions around femininity and the female body, and you can tell that they like are completely different artworks. They're completely different renditions. One, Nandipha Mntambo, in her body of work, she uses cowhide, and that's her medium of choice, and that has a loaded meaning and an intention behind that. Lady Skollie has these paintings and the way that she depicts the bodies, and that has its own intention. That's why she used that to manifest so many aspects that go into it. And that's why, you know, art that may not be considered as beautiful is still art. Like, you may think the way how Lady Skollie depicts the female figure may not be beautiful to you, it may be beautiful to so many other people, compared to maybe you don't like the use of cowhide and you think that's not art. Psh, what? But it is, because it served a purpose in that process. There are so many different functions of an artwork, and even the visual, because when you think beautiful, it largely focuses on the visual, what we see, and that's why I keep using visual art, you know, such as painting, sculptures and stuff, when the fact is that there is sonic art, and that completely focuses on the audio, what you hear. So many different kinds of arts that may not like register as beautiful to you because you weren't used to defining it as art, basically. The other thing linking to this that I thought of is that the term, or like the category of beauty, can be so restrictive because it's impossible to place this idea under a monolith. It's impossible and also problematic, because if you think about it, like, especially when it comes to art and art history and what has been depicted as beautiful in art, like when you go back to, and it always goes back to, colonialism. But I think focusing on the beauty can be problematic because we have to consider that throughout art history and history as a whole, there was a lens through which that standard was set. There was a gaze that we had to look through, and that gaze controlled what was seen as beautiful. Like, for the longest of time, we were and this is like still running, like I say, for the longest of time, but this is still going on. We are made to believe that the Renaissance paintings and Baroque art and, you know, all of that stuff, Cezanne, Monet, all of those people, extraordinary, you know, forward pushing, like earth shattering, beautiful art, whereas art from Africa is primitive, degenerative, and just craft, something that's just like a historical look. Oh my gosh, back when we were all primitive, they made stick figure stuff. Oh, how cute. When it's seen as beautiful, it's this weird childlike primitivation, is that the word, of that art, where it's not even considered art at that point. So it's not beautiful art, it's just this craft or an artifact. And that's a big thing that I've been learning in fine arts this year. Has been very interesting. The stuff you learn in university is actually quite interesting, but you know, that's why it's so problematic. Like, you have to consider, why is this deemed as beautiful, and who made it that way, that this is what we think is beautiful compared to something else, and also who benefits, because at the end of the day, colonialists. This art is like old, it's all back in the day, but I feel like this framework of thinking still comes to today. Once again, I'm not saying that being drawn to aesthetic art or beautiful art, I really don't know the term that I can put for it right now, being drawn to that is not bad at all. Like, everybody has their preferences. I can't fault you for that. It's beautiful for a reason, and like I said, technicality is phenomenal. These people should be praised. I'm starting to think about that kind of curation of like a certain image or a certain aesthetic that's starting to happen online, and the set criteria of what's defined as art, especially now that the algorithm is a thing and followers are a thing, and like you can visually see what is popular and what is not by the numbers that are like right there in front of you. Going back to the pressure, is that like, then there becomes this certain pressure to have beautiful art and to have something that seems like it would look phenomenal in a gallery. And that has been something that I have been struggling to grapple with my whole art career in university, especially when I try and expand myself past visual art or just like one traditional canvas. What's beautiful sells. This is not just in arts, this is everywhere. It is very profitable, but it's also such a huge pressure, especially if you feel disappointed, because there are so many other people that can do it better than you. There's so many other people that have much better imagery than you, such much better ways of painting, drawing, animating, digital drawing, any of that. So many people so much better than you, and then you get so intimidated, like, why doesn't mine look pretty? To make something so beautiful so that it's deemed as like art and as something that deserves to be looked at, which through my fine art degree, luckily, I'm glad I'm here, is something I was able to unlearn, that it's not just the beautiful. That's why I'm able to go to a gallery and look at something that's completely bizarre to most people and be like, that is beautiful, that is absolutely phenomenal. And I still go up to beautiful stuff and I'm like, that is phenomenal, that is amazing. But I'm able to do both. I understand that there is a beauty across all. It doesn't have to just be the aesthetic. Beauty takes on different looks, different appearances and stuff. Of the people that don't interact with art on a day-to-day basis start to understand that there are different ways that artists work, and there are different reasons why artists work, and that manifests very differently on the canvas or the work that they display. And the fact that beauty is not just about the aesthetic in art. Art is not just about the aesthetic. There are so many different kinds of intentions and ways of working and praxis that are beautiful in their own rights. So whenever you go to a gallery or if you go to an exhibition or something and you see something like eccentric, don't be afraid to just go up there and try and understand what it might mean, if it means anything or why. But yeah, so I hope you guys start to like get interested in stuff around the aesthetic, also including the aesthetic, don't get me wrong. But yeah, and then also for artists, like, don't be afraid to step outside of the aesthetic. If the aesthetic is what you're going for, it's great. If it's what you enjoy doing and if you're good at it, keep on keeping on. Like, I'm still going to make art that is aesthetically beautiful because I enjoy it. Don't be afraid to explore other ways other than the aesthetic or other than the visually beautiful. You might learn more about yourself as an artist in those kind of processes, and you don't have to stick to it forever, but a learning curve is always a good opportunity, so take it as you can. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about beauty in art, whether you agree, whether you disagree, if you have any other examples or questions. Comment section is wide open and free 99. Thank you so much for watching. If you like the video, like. If you like me, subscribe, comment down below, all that fun jazz, and until then.